It's the weekly 30-30 trading list on the ASX. We're reviewing the 30 best momentum companies over the last quarter and those that have had the best improvement in the last week. Gary Glover's been through the charts and the lists to find the best charts to assess and analyse today and possibly look for trades. On top of that, today he's also going to go through and unpack one of the market leaders, one of the best charts we've seen in the last few months, and look for where the early indicators were, the entry, how to manage trade, and what to look for on an exit. So a nice in-depth analysis on one specific trade or chart. With that intro and lead in, we say good morning, Gary Glover. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Chris. Yeah, a bit to unpack there today. So, I was going through the list there and sort of like, as I was saying, I thought we'd get a ton of really good triggers in the weekly there, but there's probably some bigger lessons in the quarterlies. There's a few trades in the weeklies, probably not as many as last week, but still some good ones there. But there's probably some greater lessons in that quarterly there to be honest there. So, I think there's as traders. It's funny. I was listening to a podcast during the week. I was listening to an old Kobe Bryant podcast. The former great NBA player there, and he was talking about obviously improving himself, and like one of the things he sort of talked about was that he made a menu of things he's going to work on. So work on shooting, work on creating his own shot, sort of deep defense. So he talked about those things there, sort of just a menu of things you want to work on, and he talked about kind of reviewing game footage as well. So he interviewed, they review the individual players, they review the team, and then just how much detail they went into there. It just kind of really made me sort of think about trading and stuff quite a lot as well. So, me personally, I've sort of been working on my little menu over the last month is sort of, it's about having sort of a bit more sit-out power, trying to trade into that heat to try and take a little bit off the top there, sort of Christian Kalamagi sort of style. So he sort of tries to take off around 25% off within the first 3 to 5 days of a bit of a pop. And just things like that, just not trying to overreact, and particularly a bit of a choppy tape here as well. So just, so it's sort of funny, those sort of things, like you make a list of a menu of things you want to try and improve on there, and also reviewing your trades as well. It's funny how they overlap too. I found that when I was reviewing a lot of my trades, there's a few what I call like a few Bs that are sort of snuck in. So sort of, one after I was sort of reviewing, last few weeks, I was thinking, okay, geez, a few more Bs in there than I'd like. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try not to trade those Bs anymore, and that sort of overlap with my sitting power as well, being able to sit out. So, sitting in a bit more cash, that's still a good position. So we've had a bit of a jump in the market here as well. So I know the market's jumped quite a bit. I've taken a little bit off the heat there. And, in the past, I probably would have been compelled to jump back in and try and find another trade and jump into a B. But I've resisted the last day or two and actually sold into that heat, taken a bit more cash there, and I'm just going to be patient, trying to be, So those are the things that I'm trying to work on. But the review and setting the goals simultaneously have actually worked pretty well. It was just interesting listening to that Kobe Bryant. That's exactly what he does there. He was doing that every week by week, setting a menu of what he was wanting to work on, and then just reviewing. I mean, there's no mistake. I mean, I think these the greatest players are, they're blessed with talent and gift there, but mate, they just work harder than everyone else, and they work smarter too. So as traders there, we're going to work hard and we're going to work smart. So that was my little drop down for the week there. But the first stock on the list there, Chris, for the quarterly there was STK. Gee, look at that chart there, sort of Strickland Metals there. So that really has had a pretty move. Yeah, it's really only had a little pause in here, sort of, some little bit of heat into a bit of a sideways action. Pretty sure this was on our list, when that happened, and it's popped again on pretty strong strength again. It would have been in a list for a couple of weeks there. Again, sideways orientation, no sign of weakness, and then just sort of powered on here. Even here, actually, this is pretty interesting because we sort of often said we can see maybe one day of selling. We sort of probably saw a two there. but did follow a pretty massive spike. So that volume probably in comparison is probably a little lighter. But what we did see is we saw volume again, and then we saw the price action just really dry up here. Although we went sideways there. This is a bit of a Kalamagi trade here, sort of when he sees that really powerful move, and then he sees the little sideways action and doesn't, and then it starts to break out there. He'll buy this breakout here. It's basically hugged the 10-day moving average, which he loves, the stronger stocks, and then breaks out here. He'll buy those as well. So it feels like a bit long in the tooth there, but it's funny, we start sort of studying these great traders there. Like they look for certain things, and that that really strong trend there. That's the ones that pop out here. So had a pretty good move here. So just thought that was a really good lesson there. STK. Number 6 on the list was ZNC. Now this was on our list last week, Chris. This is actually one that I covered last week. So little BCP sort of setting up in here. So we had this little good volume in the first leg, sort of pulled back, good volume on the second leg, pulled back here, no volume, all dried up, and then we started to see volume starting to push through here. So that's a good sign there. So we've got our little VCP break here, and the stock's had a pretty nice run there. So, probably a break of 13 cents there. Traded up to 19.5. Always a bit tricky with the small ones there, but still looks pretty solid here overall. Just interesting. That was on our list there last week.
Yeah, it was a good pick of yours last week.
Yeah, the FL1 was on the list too. That was on the list as well recently. Remember we talked about this consolidation in here. So sometimes the little short pattern as well. After the little, like the IPO sort of stuff, it's always hard to trade because there's not much price action there. But once you do, you have a little congestion there, and then you break the little B wave there, you can follow those. We saw a pretty good move again. Pull back in, not got too much volume in here. Pretty light here as well. So definitely tricky to trade the new stock there, but not impossible either. Bulletin Resources was another one that's been pretty strong. Had a few little jumps up here, nice tight consolidations there, jumps again. Not some pretty good volume through here. This one probably came back a bit deeper than you'd like here, but again, this is sort of holding up pretty nicely. This is, Kalamagi probably looking for a little bit more liquidity there, but this still, once it sort of traded back through the high here again, he would probably, that's the sort of thing he looks for there, probably just a bit more liquidity. I thought that wasn't too bad as well. EGR. This is one that's pretty interesting to me just because it has even though it's a bit small, it has popped out here for some pretty good volume. So we had some good volume up here, pull back on light volume, gone straight back up to the highs. That's really healthy volume to the high here. So now we're sort of pulled back. Did have 2 days of selling there, so that's a bit of a negative. Bit lighter on the pullback here. Did see a bit of volume there yesterday, but this is one to sort of keep an eye on here. So for me now, this is on my list to watch because we've got that explosive volume off the load. Now we're going to sort of see how this consolidates. That does might use up a bit of time here, so definitely one to watch in there. I think WA1 is one that I missed there, actually number 8. Yeah, that's had an incredible move again, Chris, after having a pretty incredible move the first leg here. So had a little tight pattern here, maybe like a little V-wave break after a tight consuming correction there. But yeah, look at that. That's really powered on. Basically doubled. So even though this stock's had a pretty good leg here, so gone from $1 to $6 there, so 600% move. Gone largely sideways, so held up pretty well, and then gone through a corrective process, and then definitely break back up again. So got to keep those sort of highest performers on your list there because they can come back and definitely go for another trade there. You might have been, even if you go for a little, you might have been talked to a few times there, but pretty impressive. Strong that one. One that's on the list there is actually one that I did trade, but not so well. That's CYL. So it's continued to had a little BCP in here, popped out, bit of a retest, and then it's gone again here. But good volume so far. this volume in here is pretty robust there. So it's not showing too much weakness. Is in one of the leading sectors. Their goals obviously been pretty good. So that's it for me. The I guess the main one there is probably keep an eye on that EGR, just because that's pretty decent growth in there. Pretty decent move on volume there. In the weekly, we had probably a bit of activity there, but just like a lot of these ones are sort of small here, so pretty hard to trade. Imaging sort of just basically had a little pop there and it just kept going here. So, unless it's sort of one that you're following pretty closely, bit hard to trade that. Little bit of a B wave break in here, but it would have been pretty early there. What else is in there? I think we about now was actually in there. WBT number 12. What? Okay. 12 was on the list there. It's kind of interesting here. Obviously, look, it's had a pretty good run. Used up a bit of time there. It's probably come back a little deeper there. So 9 back to 3 is sort of losing 60%, sort of your stock price. So normally sort of we want to sort of see something a bit more sideways orientated. So that WA1, as much as it had a decent pullback.
So it's a fair bit.
Yeah, it's still sort of held up pretty well. So it's still sort of only, at maybe only 30%. Whereas, if they come back a lot deeper, that's just more of a sign of weakness there. That's really come back in the range pretty heavily. So it can still go again, but maybe it won't go as far here. But there's some good volume there. Pull back sort of slightly low volume. Pull back again here. So maybe we'll get a little BCP. It's sort of pretty light volume here so far, light volume again today. So might see this congest back in here. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on there. I've seen a few of those sort of former ones pop up a bit there. I think just trying to think of the ASM, which we covered last week. There was sort of one that did, had that great run, cooled right off pretty big, had another big run, cooled off again. So they can run again. This one's interesting. There did break out of a little VCP pattern there. The volume was pretty good on the break. So, definitely would have followed that one there. Had a bit of a shoot up here. So maybe Kalamagi might be sort of selling a little bit into that heat. Pull back here, might be looking again. This is still sort of constructive for me. It still looks quite good. NEU was sort of one that had, I think I hit the list actually last, if I'm not mistaken, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's hit the list actually last Friday there. So I think I mentioned this one last week, Chris, was one of those. Yeah, but kind of a bit of a game changer trade. So basically when they sort of gap up on fundamental news, so sort of trade which can be followed. So I think after I spoke to you, I did see this pull back and I did trade some here. I just didn't have a lot of capital free. So, but I did buy a little bit into this weakness there. And then it started to build here, and it just, still looks pretty constructive to me. Seen in the past, these sort of, when you sort of get a big gap up on improving earnings or big fundamental shift there, they can follow through there. So even though it sort of came back there, so that bar didn't look so good at the end of the day. Well, the one thing you got to look at stocks is you got to go back and look at them in the past there. So look at what happened in the first day up here last time as well. The last time it had some good news, it actually drew some selling in, but that continued to go higher. So it's done exactly the same as it's done in the past there. So that's why you got to sort of try and, we can quickly gauge the personality of the stock there. It's like we talked about corporate travel. Every time it reported well, tend to sell off really aggressively into that day, and then it recovered and we go up there. So it was almost like a decoy on the day to try and throw you. But if you learn that about the stock, we learn that the sort of stock's personality, and there's certain reasons why that happens. People get it. Maybe management can't sort of sell for the 24 hours or 48 hours into after they've reported. It's like you just don't know why these things do certain things, but they keep doing them over and over again. It's worth sort of understanding. That's why learning the personality in stocks is pretty important. But I noticed that's had a pretty good move there. Continue to trade here. So look, I just sort of bought some on this day here. Put my stop just under 12 here. Now it's got a little higher low, so I've moved my stop up to just under 12.44 here. So I've kind of got a free hit now. So I just hopefully let this thing ride. Hopefully it can go to a new high there. But I noticed that one of the other stocks, it did something similar, was James Hardie as well. So it basically did gap up pretty hard there. So probably a bit harder to trade because it did gap up pretty hard. But whether you buy this sort of on the open there or give yourself the first half hour, but you could have traded this up here. It hasn't followed through. Now it's gone to a new low, so you probably be probably stopping yourself out. But yeah, that's hard one there. Sort of like that's a pretty large gap there. So I know Calamagi sort of talks about this earnings trade there. Just watching how big the gap is and just how well known the news is if the market's already half expecting it, or if it's get there. But it hasn't run up too much beforehand. That's the other sort of thing as well. So this did have a bit of a run up beforehand, whereas I think NEU it's probably had a tiny run up there, but still sitting pretty low. So those are the things to watch there. I think Satire was on the list there. It's had an interesting one here. It's had nice sort of had a bit of a pause, a bit of a correction there. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on there because it has had a pretty amazing run here. Pretty strong stock here, but that's still fairly corrective, that, Chris. That's a bit of an ABC come back in here. Still sitting on top of the previous high, so still pretty constructive for mind here. So this is definitely one to sort of be on our list there. The volume's not fantastic in there, but sometimes, if this is a bit of a last leg up here, that have to be awesome. And it hasn't had, it's a bit thinly traded in here, so you really have to sort of go back and look in detail at the volume. So the volume was okay on these up days. What you're looking for is a bit of a pullback, maybe it pulls back into 260, doesn't do too much damage there. And then break through $3 and maybe that's a little B-wing break later on. So this is sort of one that should be on our list there. Satire, just because it has been a leader in the past there, is a high delta stock as well. Betcha was on the list, which is interesting there. So it's actually had some okay volume there through the Chris. Actually had a bit of a nice rally off the lows. Probably wouldn't normally be on my preferred picks there, but is a stock that was on the corporate action table there a while ago. So I think sort of Regal were involved in that, so a bit opportunistic, but definitely want to keep an eye on there. Wouldn't rule it out completely. Visa was another one I thought looked quite good there. Just because it's had a nice rally off the low, so it sort of made this sort of false break here. So a slight new low. But we've obviously there is, pretty steady, strong volume there. So really that's been, that's a really impulsive move. It's definitely broken a swing high. So like to see swing highs get broken. Like to see pretty strong volume and something impulsive there. So this sort of, this pattern here, actually quite a lot of stocks have made this pattern at the moment. So if I go through the top 300-500 stocks, this is pretty common. There's a lot of stocks that look exactly like this.
Is that a false break and then a strong rally?
Yeah, so it's a false break or where it's come back a bit deeper there, but we had a really impulsive rally, so taken out previous swing highs. That's definitely broken the downtrend, I would say. So good move up here. So now we're looking for signs of a first high low or some sort of consolidation there. So you kind of need to see a pullback, but then you want to see volume dry up here as well. So want to see a first high low. That's why sometimes we're in a rush to make money, but sometimes the market will do what it wants to do. It's going to build here, so it doesn't go straight up on the rail all the time. It has to make a few high lows there. So definitely another one to put on the list there, just because it has shown that sort of strength there. GOZ. So yeah, this is sort of slightly different, but the same type of picture again. It's had a really, it's broken the downtrend here. So taken out a swing high. We drew a sort of channel line there, probably going to break as well. But had a pretty good volume move as well here. So now we want to sort of see this pull back here. Not that I'm a big head and shoulders type of trader there, but that's what we're probably looking for a lot of stocks here, like an inverse head and shoulder sort of setup. So this is probably one of the more common setups there at the moment there. So you kind of like this one here, if you want to see this maybe hug the 50, and use up maybe 4 or 5 days and go too far down. That would be what I sort of see there. Covered ASN, CLW. Yeah, so again, there's that same pattern there again. Big jump out of the range, pull back there. So I think all the property trusts look like this. A lot of the retailers look a bit like this as well. So yeah, just interesting sort of pattern there. So those are the things I probably look for there. Just that that sort of game change sort of trade we're looking at there, trying to work on. Me personally, trying to work on that game changer trade there. I think Kalamagi gives it another name. I think he gives it what's he call it? The episodic pivot. I think he calls it. So when you get a big jump, on an earnings guidance sort of move there. So looking for like a gap up 10% move, big volume, and he basically wants to sort of see it, hold the low within the first half hour. But he's still have a look at it there. But he's really looking for that sort of sort of say, but it hasn't rallied too hard the last 3 months. But that's set up to a better chance to sort of gap up and keep running there. So definitely something I've been working on there. What I might do is that one trade I was thinking about looking at, Chris, was I think it's there's two, apart from reviewing your trades, it's also important to go and look at the leaders of the past. This is one thing that the grades do is, and Kalamagi sort of mentions this. I know that sort of William O'Neill talks about this all the time, is that going back and actually reviewing some of the biggest winners in the market and see what you can learn from those. So that this one's actually on our list here. It's still just had another run here again. So big winner of the past there. So if you look at this stock here, this WA1, this has had a pretty impulsive move off the low, pretty aggressive. So most people would say, oh, gee, it's gone from 20, 30 cents here to $3. Missed it. It's all done. It's all over. The trade's all over there. But history sort of tells us there that this is how, like Kalamagi wouldn't trade this. He basically, he looks for this really fast move up on big volume there. So something which moves like 30, 40% or maybe 100%, short period of time on big volume. That goes on his list there. So, and then he's looking for this to, so basically if you're looking for this to sort of like, this sort of ended up pulling back here, came back in an A leg, maybe a B leg and a C leg there. And then it started to actually break previous swinging high. So this is probably the first time there we get a B wave break. It was the 5th of April, 23. So we finally start to move it. Hard to see that volume there got so big, but that does sort of show an improvement. I think the volume's right up in here. Good. If you were to drill into here and see that was pretty good volume, that was light volume, that was pretty heavy there. What happened was this sort of continued to keep going up here. Again, had another little pause. So again, there's a little high type flag there, Chris. Another little congestion there. So that would have been nothing negative about that. If anything, it might have been telling us to add to our position.
So that's 100% rally from $1 almost to $2.
Yeah.
That congestion barely breaks the low, that up candle, and then you're just showing a breakout day there, but above the downtrend.
Yeah, and this is sort of one of David Ryan's sort of favourites as well, is that, he likes to sort of see price go up near an old high, then congest in a tightwood manner just under that high, and then, we get this little tight pattern and a bit of breakout here as well. So this was all pretty light volume. You can't sort of see it in here because of this big volume sort of, I guess hard to read on there, but if you go back and study that sort of individually, there you'll see the volume there. So that's why it's really important to go back and look at these big moves, because they make sort of similar patterns over and over again. And then we sort of go up here as well. So it's important here now is to sort of look at every sort of swing high there and see where the market will come back and overlap, or whether it will come back and sit on. Yeah. So we can sort of see that, really only had a couple of down days in there. I think that's, all that, no volume in there, so no selling. So even though it's had a bit of a pullback in the range there, maybe slightly undercut the gap there, no selling in there. And the next day, the volume improves there. So this still sort of looks pretty firm here. So see it goes up, makes a high here, pulls back here. That leaves a gap between the previous high and the previous low. So we know this is in a strong position to keep rallying here. This is our bullish spacing that we've spoken about a few times here as well. And again, that was the old high there. That's pulled back and left spacing as well. So this spacing here, sitting on top or leaving a space between the high and the low there, is sort of critical in looking at how strong a trend is. Now this goes higher here. Has a bit of a pullback in here, so it does overlap here, but if we're looking at the candles there, there's still spacing there, and that's what we should be looking at. I'd just like to highlight the tops as well here, but really the spacing is between the bodies, and we still got spacing as well. So it still leaves a really, really strong position as well here. So each pullback there is pretty light volume there, and going to into your high there. And again, just another little pullback there. We look at that day there in particular. Let's go. See, look at those 2 days down, Chris. 1, 2 down there. Absolutely no selling. So even though this thing has gone, this thing's gone from like $1 to $4. So it looks like, you should be selling this here. But the next 2 days down, absolutely no selling comes in. No one wants to sell this. So it still holds this, what Kalamagi talks about, the strongest stocks hugging the 10-day. So once it starts getting really aggressive like this, he won't he'll use the 10-day as he stops. So sort of oftentimes he'll trade some into heat, but he uses this for his final one. As soon as it breaks the 10-day, then he should be out here. Keeps coming back here, comes back for a little touch, doesn't break it. Again, look at that volume. Look at the 3 days there, 1, 2, 3. Again, no one's selling the stock, even though it's up 400-500%. Still, no one is still selling the stock here. And then it starts to gap up, comes back to the 10 again. So it keeps bouncing off this 10. It's really showing strength there. Now, the only thing going on here now is I've had this one pull back, overlapped again, pulled back, gone up again. So we've now basically got this little 1, 2, 3 thrust overlapping top, which that's the only thing I've seen that's on there negative. That's sometimes I see those overlapping lows, like the 3 thrust low or the 3 thrust high. That's a bit of a sell signal for me personally when I see that. So if I saw that, I would have been a bit nervous about that. We've been tightening my stop up quite a bit here, and then we cross there. So now we should be out of that trade, So we should be sort of sitting in there. Those are sort of the rules of momentum stocks. So if you look at how the greats sort of trade them, look at Kalamagi's rules. He's sort of one of the in terms of trading momentum stocks. He's probably one of the best I've seen, and he's out there. So this now goes through a bit of a sideways move here. At some point here, you get a little B wave break in here. So you thought maybe this has got one last leg in it. So you might have got a little bit of a move here, but it ends up sort of breaking back down again. So look, you might have got yourself up to break even here, nothing lost. But you just never know what's going to be around the corner here. So this goes through a bit of a time-consuming decline here. And then it ends up giving another trader as well here. So actually, potentially there's a little bit of a B wave break in here. Hard to see it in there. It did sort of break out there, come back in, and then go through again. Did go through to the next high as well. I think the volume came in on this gap here. So it's amazing. This one's actually given us, if we followed the rules there, this has been pretty robust there. That just tells us, just tells us to stay with the 10. 10's pretty far away here. So you might want to be a bit tighter there, but we just never know. This might just be here. In the move here might be, we're looking for, just watching for selling here and so on. So you might sort of sell in a bit of heat there, but I think it's a really good lesson there. Just, apart from, I think it's really important to go and review your own trades. So then you can sort of work on the things that you sort of need to work on. And it does, and it's funny how that sort of, for me, sort of personally, was, having sit out power and trying to stay away from B trades. So those sort of, they were kind of reviewing my trades, told me I was taking too many Bs. And one of my things I really wanted to work on was holding more cash. So they've ended up overlapping and working pretty well. And I've avoided taking some bad trades this week and just being patient in the ones that I've done. So I've had a couple of good weeks there. But more importantly, I've sort of followed my process as well. But the second thing is to go back and actually look at some of these big moves there. So every now and again, I think maybe once a quarter, Chris, we might try and cover a trade like this, something which is maybe hit it out of the park, and just try and see if we can learn from it as well. But when like the main thing there is what we're looking for early is that big explosive move on big volume. That's step number one. Step number two is to wait for a little bit of a pause. So sometimes this can be 2 weeks to only a few months. This one ended up being a bit longer here, but they can be short and they can be a little bit longer there. But just waiting for that sort of setup there. You might have got a little trigger in here. This might have been giving you a little B wave there. You might have got a move up there. You might have got stopped out here. But, it just means that good risk management. And then we've got another setup here, and this started to move on some OK volume as well. I think if we drill into there, we had some OK volume. Really, that just dried up immensely. And then we're gapping up here some good volume as well. So, Gotta learn from the past here, try and improve our trading here. That's be there. So exercise for the day for all our viewers there. Get a little menu of maybe 2 or 3 things you want to work on. Try and get a little plan for that. And then start reviewing a few of your trades as well. Just even if if you're a frenetic trader and you do a lot of trades, then maybe just review 2 or 3 a week. Just to sort of have a look at, what you're doing and stuff there, make some notes. And I build a template personally for you to sort of, score your trades and review them, make sure you're following a process. That'll actually that'll help you sort of focus on those menu items there that you want to improve on as well. So, that's me for the week. Good luck with the trading.
They're very good insights, especially unpacking the trade and what you've just gone through there. We had the game changer, the Bible gap up, and VCP, high and tight flag, bullish spacing, and then three thrust high. That's a whole lot of different.
Got it all in it.
You're consistently. That's how you're managing your trades. That's how you're looking for the setup. Is putting all of that together, and that's your playlist. And this is a perfect example of sort of a share that's consistently showing the strategies that you're working with and sort of giving you the triggers. I guess they're not always going to be that perfect, but and that's probably what you found in the reviews in looking back at your last 4 weeks of trades. Did you find many trades that gave you that many setups and that many signals? Or is that a brand?
Yeah, look, there's not heaps there. There's a few there that will, there's a few that I sort of missed there. So I know that sort of sometimes we get sort of locked into what we're doing. There might be other opportunities that will pop up there. So there's actually been there's been a couple on the list the last month there that I thought had a pretty good jump up, good volume, and it pulled back and congested. And we're starting to sort of build there. One I sort of traded pretty poorly. That's sort of CYL. I think that ZNC, I did see that there was just a little small for me. But yeah, there's a couple there that sort of worked on there. But yeah, it's the main thing for me just was not sort of to try and just be a bit more patient as well. It's a pretty choppy take as well. And oftentimes you're sort of getting chopped up, you get nervous and you get, so you just got to sort of follow the process a little bit there. So I've probably done the least amount of trading last week that I've done for a long time.
And in the last 3 or 6 months, how would you rate this week's performance compared to the last 3 or 6 months?
Yeah, pretty good. So yeah, a lot better. So even though the last couple of days haven't been great here, I've had a good couple of weeks really. So yeah, and just sort of staying with what I've got and trying not to overdo it, and just being patient here. I sort of, I think, yeah, just not trading too much. That's the key there too. That's definitely a weakness. It was funny. Cameron Maggie said exactly the same thing. I was listening to him. He trades too often, and so yeah, it's something. If you're enthusiastic and you love trading, and you sort of you do want to trade there, but you can just sort of pull yourself a little bit back here. And that's for me is the thing. I just realized I was just taking too many Bs. So it's okay to sit in cash. it's okay just to wait for A's.
That's a good lesson. That is a good lesson to take into the weekend. So thank you very much for the charts, the analysis, the real detailed breakdown of WA1. And we'll come up again on Tuesday where you walk through your portfolio, the trades you're looking at for the week. And there's a whole playlist there on the right. On the left, trading setups, strategies, and analysis. And then on the right, your X or Twitter handle. Over there on the left. Thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.